What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So I got good news. You know, as you saw, Billy and Tommy squared off the S10 versus the Falcon Saturday night, and unfortunately the S10 didn't run quite as well as it should have, and we also had that same exact problem at Trails the weekend before, where the truck stumbled a little bit when it left and spun the tire because it didn't make enough power to hit the tire the way it's supposed to, and I just found out why. The rear boost reference power valve extension, like a jet extension, had fallen out of the rear power valve. That's bad. But what's even worse is that the power valve itself was stuck. So once I freed the boost reference power valve, got it cleaned up, I headed down to Mark's to go get a new piece of copper tubing to make a new extension and a new O-ring that had been damaged on the carburetor hat. Mark got us all fixed up, along with a case of oil, some Wix filters, some brake cleaner, rags, and everything else I needed to get back on track when I got back to the shop. So I made my new extension, put the carburetor all back together, rejetted the rear of the carburetor down to where I thought it would be close, where it should have been months ago, and got the truck ready to fire up, warm up, and test it on the brake to see if it comes up on boost any better than it has been. What do you think?
Better, a lot better. We'll have to see how it does at Burnout and see if it'll leave at that RPM now without stumbling. The road's dry up, we'll get to test some.
So the truck's all back together. Sounds really good, comes up on boost nice and clean. Unfortunately, the roads are wet, so we can't go out and make any test pulls or test passes so far today. But just about the time we got the truck all back together, got it fired up, tested it, it was time to say goodbye to Matt and Mallory and little Ella, aka Meatball. Now Matt's been out here to visit us numerous times, but this time was the first time they've been able to travel as a family with the motorhome and bring Ella and Mallory and the dogs with them. So last night before they left, Vicky made chicken and noodles, and we all sat down and had dinner together before they had to head home to Delaware. Now Matt's quite a character, right? And maybe I don't always agree with the way he does things. But you have to understand something about Matt. Matt really doesn't have a father figure or any immediate family to help him. So Matt struggles. Matt goes through day to day on his own for the most part. But Matt has managed to travel the country a lot of times with us, and he has always been a huge help. In fact, I wouldn't have my own YouTube channel right now had it not been for Matt telling me, "It's time to do it, Bill. It's time to pull the trigger." We wouldn't have SRC Garage if it wasn't for Matt. Now, I know a lot of people bust on Matt sometimes, give him a hard way to go on the internet and stuff. But let me tell you something. Matt's a hustler. I've seen that boy drive from Delaware all the way to Detroit to flag races at an event that gets rained out last minute. So he drives from Detroit down here, stays the night on our couch, goes to a race with us on Saturday night and takes his last $50 to buy hot dogs at the grocery store and sells them on the starting line at Magnolia for gas money to get home. I watched it happen. Not everybody is born into a family that has all this help and resources and a shop and tools, and that doesn't make them any less important to the sport of drag racing or the events that we attend. Not everybody gets the same chance, the same opportunity to get started as we did. So, when Matt shows up here at our house, we take care of him. And he's always taking care of us. Matt helped film a lot of the scenes in the Shiners movie. Not only did he play a part in the movie, he actually helped film a lot of these chase scenes. And if it wasn't for Matt and his camera and his willingness to stay there and help us get this done, a lot of these scenes that you see in this short film would have never been captured, and the film wouldn't have been nearly as good as it was. Our guests are gone.
Sadly.
You're gonna miss Meatball, aren't you?
Yeah. I totally deserve someday in the future a little granddaughter.
Way in the future.
Way in the future. But after raising boys and dealing with you boys, don't I deserve a little girl? Like Barbies and coloring and baking and cookies and like all these things. Dresses, like all that.
Well, you never know. You might get a boy and still get all that.
I can't say that.
All right, guys, so I just received a help request from Molly's shop. Billy's over there trying to help her put a line lock on the Mustang. He thinks he's got the brake lines done, but he'd like a little help with the electrical side of it. So I'm going to load up a few things here and head over there and see how they're doing. By the time I got over to Molly's shop, the kids had most of the hard work done. The line lock solenoid was mounted and the brake lines were almost finished. The only thing they had left to do was bleed the brakes. And of course the electrical. Once we had the brakes bled, Billy and I started in wiring things up. Once we had the wiring through the firewall, the next thing I needed to do was find a spot in the fuse block to power the system up. Then Billy helped me pull the wires from under the steering column, over through the console, and up near the shifter. Meanwhile, Molly started putting the front wheels back on. Once we had everything pretty well buttoned up, Billy got in the car, turned the key on, checked the system, make sure it all worked, and then we put Molly in the car and explained to her the process for using the line lock to do her burnout. Now, she's never used a line lock before, so she had quite a few questions, and it's going to take some time for her to get used to using it, but I'm sure she'll figure it out eventually. All right, guys, so made it back here to the shop. The kids have all gone home or gone to bed. But anyway, I haven't really talked anything about Tommy going to the finals up there at the Rewind. So I figured I'd cover that real quick before we end this video. First, I'm extremely proud of my kids. I'm extremely proud of Billy and Tommy. And that Falcon deal is 100% them. All of it, 100% them. So it's really cool for me to be able to sit and watch my kids tune their own car. You know, it's one of those things that as a father, you hope and pray that someday your kids will be able to take off and go on their own without you. That's what being a father is all about. In honesty, it's about raising your kids to be able to carry on once you're gone. And that's what they're doing. They're already doing it. So that makes me feel good. Something happens to me tomorrow, I feel pretty certain that my kids are going to be okay. But as far as the Falcon goes, that thing's it's a really good car. It doesn't quite have the power that the S10 has yet, but I think it's possible to get it. We'd probably just need to upgrade the turbos on it. But I know somebody's going to say, well, it outran the truck already, but it really didn't. The truck was down on power considerably, and you know, I think we've got that situation handled. But tomorrow night, we may be going up to Marion to test. I'm not sure. Just depends on the weather, depends on how Billy's feeling, you know, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about, second round at the Rewind. Tommy got paired up with this really nice looking second gen Camaro, really nice looking silver one. I hadn't really seen that car before, but it made a decent lick first round, but I wouldn't say it was like stellar. I think the kids pretty much left the tune-up alone, and Tommy was just going to grab the scramble once it got into high gear. In all honesty, the tune-up was really lazy in low gear. As you can see here in the end car, you can hear the thing pick up really hard when it grabs a scramble after the gear change. So he made it through second round, and he grabbed the scramble, and now, since they know it would take it, Billy just adds that amount of boost to the tune-up. But the problem is, he got a real nasty draw third round. Mr. CJ Buckner in the Raggedy Ann Mustang.
Tommy.
Good luck. All right, go.
How much money would you buy us now?
Two.
Nice one.
I was hoping for this on the last one. Thank you.
It's all right.
Mike Moss got the bye.
I drew CJ.
Did you?
Left lane, second pair.
All right, good.
Care. What do you want to do?
What do you want to do?
Did you already turn it up a little bit, or no?
Left it alone. You think we need to go 60?
I don't know. I haven't watched CJ race, so.
Let's watch some of his videos.
Now, I've taught these boys to race smart. Race your lane, not so much the car beside you. They thought that the lane would take a 60. Whether they needed it or not, they didn't really know. Now, CJ's car looks extremely fast. To watch it on the starting line, it's 60 foot hard. It carries the front wheels. So it's intimidating to somebody who maybe doesn't have a turbo car that runs a lot of mile an hour out the back. Not that CJ's car doesn't run good mile an hour out the back. He's just been struggling a little bit this year with his mile an hour deficit. So the boys decide to put in the car what they feel the lane will take. And if it feels completely fine, then grab the scramble after it gets into high gear. Watch CJ's second round pass, and you'll see what I mean. The car is intimidating to watch it run. Now, I don't know what this guy's tune-up was, but you can clearly see he got after it too hard, too early in a left-hand lane. CJ's car is intimidating. It looks like you've got to really get after it early in the run. I don't know whether the guy grabbed the scramble or whether the tune-up that he had in the car was just that hot. Regardless, CJ applies copious amounts of pressure early in the run and forces the guy's hand, and he knocks the tires off, handing CJ the win. Now, something that we've learned from racing extremely fast cars in the past is that cars that look violent, you'd think that they're extremely fast. And sometimes it can be that way. But you can make a car leave gently and still 60 foot very fast without wheel speed. Now, you can 60 foot with a little bit of wheel speed and 60 foot really fast. But that wheel speed in a 60 foot is detrimental to the run from 60 feet on. From that point on, if you can't gather the wheel speed up, you can't mile an hour out the back. That's what we've learned. Somebody else may say that's bullshit, but I'm telling you right now, if you watch Kendall Golan's car, if you watch that Falcon, if you watch some of the absolute fastest small tire street race cars and no prep cars in the country, they look slow when they leave. But I can assure you they are not. So Tommy and the Falcon versus CJ and the Raggedy Ann Mustang, round 3 at the Rewind. The very first night we went street racing, we raced CJ Buckner. It was a big deal because everybody knew CJ and he never loses. But he lost to us that night, to newbies of all things. And CJ's never forgot it. It's a mutual respect that we have between us, and we consider him like family. Now, to watch that Falcon leave by itself, it doesn't look that fast. But when you put it beside CJ's Mustang, you get a feel for just how hard the 60 foot is in that little Falcon. Even though it looks like it's going slow when it leaves, it's within a car length of CJ in a 60 foot. And I would venture to say that CJ's car 60 foot's as hard or harder than almost any other small tire car at any back into the track event anywhere in the country. Now, CJ always asks if I'll help back him up, and I would never tell him no, even if he's running one of my own kids. I love that guy to death. He is, without question, one of the top 10 nicest, most sincere people I've ever met in my entire life, and I've met a bunch of people. So if that gives you any indication as to how I feel about CJ Buckner, it doesn't get much better than him. So now we're in the semifinals, and Tommy draws the bye run because the other two cars that were left had already had a bye. Since we felt when we were in the pits that we would be racing Mike Moss in the final, Mike took the left lane, so we decided to take a hit in the right lane, which we hadn't been but once all night. The little Falcon made an incredibly good pass, the fastest pass that he had made so far that night, but not the fastest pass he would make during the entire event. He would go faster in the final. You know, if they can get underneath that, good for them.
Leave it, and I probably won't grab the, judging by, next race, like if it's dead even, I don't know. I think I'll be okay, but
It picked up 2 mile an hour.
yeah, I think it took the scramble. It just felt like it. It was. I had to drive it a little bit more than usual.
So the kids decide that the tune-up is probably going to be okay for the final round. The only problem is I had told Tommy, do not try to guess the light. The reason being, I didn't want Tommy to try and guess the light and have Chris maybe take one extra step on him. You know, sometimes the flaggers tend to mix it up a little bit, especially in the final. So I didn't want to take any risk. I felt like we had the fastest car there. I felt that we had the best tune-up there. I felt like we were in the better of the two lanes. If someone's going to screw this up, let it be the guy in the other lane. We'll take our chances. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for us. I think basically what happened there was Mike took a shot at the light and came up clean. I stood there and watched it happen, and I thought for sure that he jumped. I mean, I was standing there and I watched it happen, and I really, honest to God, felt that I thought that he jumped. And I even went up to Chris. I said, I think he jumped. And Chris said, we'll wait till, you know, we get this last pair of cars run. We'll look at it. And when they looked at it, it was clear. It was clean. It was clean on our camera. It was clean on their camera. I think what made it look so bad is that Tommy missed the light a little bit. So I was focused on, like I always am in the final, I focus in on the other driver. I don't really worry about my kids. I'll focus on the other driver to see if they jump, because if we have to contest it, I'd like to have my focus on that. You know what I mean? So when I was focusing on Mike's car and how it left according to the light, I didn't see that Tommy had missed the tree as bad as he did. So it looked really bad, and it turned out really bad. But that's okay. We learn, and we race another day, and we had a fantastic time. And let me tell you something, guys. This whole thing with this Falcon really just happened by chance. Billy found the car, and he got a wild hair up his butt just to go buy this thing. But let me explain to you what we've got now. What we have is a bad small tire car. This chassis and the electronics that are in it are top contender small tire anywhere you go. It's capable of it. It's going to need some turbos. It's going to need a little bit more power. But we now have something to test that against. And as Billy learns to use the Holly system and the shock sensors and eventually the traction control, which we haven't even turned on yet. Listen, guys, I've already had a couple of messages from different people about how we feel about this car in small tire classes meant for new guys. You know, there was a shitbox class up there, and as you may have heard in the video, the starter said Tommy should have probably been in the shitbox class because it's for newbies. Well, we weren't going to do that. We race up. We don't ever try to race down or jump in a class that we're not meant for. That's not our style. We don't earn any respect, right? We don't earn any respect puppy kicking or jumping down a class. Nobody earns any respect that way. They may think they do. They may beat their chest and they may say, oh, I won something. But in all honesty, even though Tommy hadn't been racing in over a year, I wouldn't exactly call Tommy a newbie, right? He's grown up around this stuff. He's pretty sharp. He's a sharp kid. And Billy's definitely a sharp tuner. So the traction control thing, guys, let me explain something to you. The only thing traction control will do is slow the car down. I'll get into that maybe tomorrow. Let's talk about that tomorrow, because this video is already getting pretty long. But tomorrow, I think we'll dive into that conversation, traction control, and what I really feel about it. Now, I know a lot of people don't like it. I know it upsets a lot of people. But I'm going to give you the lowdown on traction control. It doesn't make you faster. It might save an aborted run, but it's not going to make you faster. It's not going to save you from a piss poor chassis and suspension tune-up, a piss poor boost ramp, or a piss poor nitrous ramp. It's not going to save you from that. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Good night, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting my kids. The comments on the videos are just wonderful, and God, it's amazing what we're doing right now.